Hello there, I'm Eric with EMSNOW on the show floor at Apex 2026. I am now in the Mycronic booth where I have the pleasure of having a special guest today. I was scheduled just to meet with Kevin,
Just with me.
just
But
with
now
Kevin.
you have a special guest.
Now I have a special guest. We brought Anders, the CEO, on board, and I appreciate the opportunity to get some insights from you as well about the industry that this is all serving. So. We're living in an interesting time right now globally, right? With geopolitical things or even the supply chain tensions and everything that's going on there. What impact at a high level do you see that having on our industry?
If I can start from the total Mycronic viewpoint. I think for us, because it's very difficult to predict where it's going. So we try always to create as much optionality and flexibility as possible. So we have opened up new manufacturing locations. The latest one was in Thailand. We had before opened up in Mexico to be able to supply products not made in China and so on. I think also it gives an opportunity because you see that many regions want to own their own supply chains. They want to have their own manufacturing. They want to have their own semicon manufacturing for strategic reasons. There's also a lot of new investments in equipment in places where we're not on the radar before. So
Right.
it's,
Do you see that whole shift, a kind of nearshoring, reshoring, homeshoring? They call it many things. Do you see that impacting then too, the industry and the manufacturing decisions?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We're seeing a lot of onshoring. I'll call it onshoring, but we see a lot of that activity for sure here in the US for obvious reasons. But I think one of the trends that we're also seeing in the industry is a shift from certainly some of the China manufacturing moving out to Southeast Asia. The Southeast Asian market in our little world has doubled year over year. So that's a really large, significant change in regional infrastructure, and I think that's one of the reasons we added into Thailand to facilitate that. Certainly here in the US side, same thing. It's a lot of new activities. Customers bringing their production here domestically.
Yeah. But it's an interesting balancing act, though. So we just released our first ever list of the top 100 EMS ODMs. If you look at that, the vast majority are China Taiwanese headquartered, right? So all these trends are going on, the nearshoring, we're all talking about it, but you cannot ignore that region and the manufacturing in that region. It's still a critical component for global manufacturing. So how do you balance that?
I think from a geopolitical viewpoint, I think it's much more. You need this kind of a dual setup in a way that you want to be in China for China, and that's even more important because China also want to be independent from the rest of the world, and also through a lot of investments into manufacturing capability and technical capability as well. But at the same time, you need to operate outside of China. So I think that's you need to have a little bit of split strategy on this.
That makes sense. But yeah, it just struck me when we looked at that. I think it's 70% or so was still kind of Asian based there, right? And those are growing regions. I mean, if you look at everything in Southeast Asia, so you're global sales, right? You play in all regions, not just here.
Sure, but a lot of those CMs in the infrastructure, they might be Taiwan based or Chinese based, but they're setting up locations outside of their home turf. And I think that's the trend that we're seeing. A lot of manufacturing moving to India, a lot of manufacturing moving to Southeast Asia, Mexico as well. We're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah. I even heard from somebody in Mexico yesterday about seeing a nice uptick on the automotive side. After a bad year last year, they're starting to see some positive, what are they, green sprouts or whatever they call them, right? There's something happening. So are there particular sectors that you're seeing that are doing well in this environment? I mean, everybody knows defense, right?
I was going to say defense is an easy one.
Yes.
There's the forecasted 18% year-over-year growth in the defense segment, and I think there's an emphasis for local in all regions around the world from a defense segment perspective. There's a lot of initiatives in every country to domestically source their own electronics, which is creating lots of opportunities in the various regions for sure.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because I look at that and I think about the big driver seems to be all of the AI, the data centers, everything that's going in there, right? Which is more Americas and Asia than Europe, as I understand it, right? Where the manufacturing is going to. Do you see that reflecting in your customers as well?
Yeah, very much. You can see everything which is AI related somewhere. We do really good in those segments.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of investment, very high speed of development
Mm-hmm.
as well. And you're right. I think it's a pity that Europe is it's actually quite behind
Yeah.
on that infrastructure build up. So
Yeah, I wonder if some of that has to also with energy costs over in Europe being what they are rather than here. I live in Texas, the Wild West, right? Energy tends to be fairly inexpensive. Europe has the other side of the equation on that one, so that must impact it in some way. But tell me about the technology though, because what you're doing, obviously, you build equipment to service all this, all these great products in electrification. Um, and what we see a lot of it is kind of the things are becoming more dense, right? It's becoming smaller, miniaturization, all of those trends. And how does that challenge your business?
So we've made a lot of investment, I would say, in AI. I mean, a lot of people are talking about AI this week, I'm sure. But we've created an independent AI team within Mycronic to facilitate all products in our range. So there's a big investment.
Not just
there.
in marketing, right?
Not just in marketing, actually in the real world, actually, improving our products to make them easier to use, easier to program. And I think there's a big investment there from my client's perspective to respond to that. I think one of the things you talked about miniaturization.
Yes.
One of the newest developments that we have in our product line is a new ejector for our jet printing technology, which allows us to get down to really small 1 nanoliter volume solid dots down to 180 micron in diameter, and that really supports your point about being able to help the miniaturization part of our world, and that supports a lot of the AI server board industry, which is a big growth industry for us.
It's interesting because at the same time, if I read it correctly, you also have updated or new big boards, right? You're able on the MyPro side, right?
So we just added the 841 pick and place tool, which is an evolutionary product from the 840 product line, and that capability gets us up to 1,000 millimeters in the x-axis. So it supports a lot of the test environment, the automated test equipment side of the business, as well as the military side. There's a lot of very large military products out there that require that kind of size. So it's two very distinct segments that we're facilitating with that new product launch.
Wow. I wanted to bring you back in, Anders, because it's just, you run a very interesting company, right? You touch so many sectors, you touch so much of what's going on globally, but all through electronics, which is going to continue to go. But the diversification, having the good team to be able to stay on this, must be an ongoing, not challenge, but an ongoing commitment from Mycronic and from the executive team. How do you see that?
No, I think that's a very important point. I think because you see so many driving forces, AI is maybe the biggest one right now, and impact on processors, on semicon, on manufacturing capabilities, miniaturization, all of that, the energy consumption, even other sectors like cooling and all that. So for us, it's super important really to understand what kind of impact, what opportunities do we see behind that, really, what kind of applications will be very important in this drive. We see a lot of development in packaging technologies of semicon, really, that is maybe the most interesting right now, the advanced packaging, to be able to still fulfill Moore's law and make people things faster and smaller and all that. So really look around the corner a little bit and see what kind of applications in those kind of segments can we contribute to with products and service knowledge, all of that, and direct our forces in that kind of direction, both when it comes to acquisitions. We look for companies, of course, and technologies here, but also our own development, obviously, to see that what products can we develop to support this.
And speaking, I remember at Productronica last fall, right? This was when the GenI came out, right? And it's been a while now. What's the overall reception been to that? Because that was a real game changer, right?
Super positive. you're right. So it was launched at Productronica. This is our first launch here stateside.
Okay.
We've been in alpha testing all last year.
Mhm.
We're in beta testing right now. We're just finishing the beta test here, coming up in the next little while, another couple of weeks. But that product line has truly been a game changer for some of our customers here. Really positive feedback. And it's an AI empowered technology.
Yeah, for those who may not have caught it, review what that is. Because
so we're using the same hardware on the inspection platform, but we're powering it with AI intelligence, and we're using program data from the pick and place machine. We're embedding that with AI-driven algorithms to overlay one to the other to distinguish components from leads, from fillets, from boards, and so we're now automating the programming time. There is no programming of our AOI tool. There is no shapecode library to manage. You're now able to program an AOI machine with an operator, a de-skilled operational type person, as opposed to a fully qualified process engineer. So there's lots and lots of benefits that AI has empowered for us on our AOI tool. And I would say, of all of the innovations that we have at the show here this week, that has been probably the most well accepted and exciting one for our customers.
That's exciting. Yeah, I remember that. Excuse me, I remember that back in Germany. So it's good to see that it's here, and I'm glad you're. I know. Well, a lot has happened in the world and in my life since then, right? So, but no, I remember seeing that and speaking to you on the show floor about that, and it's very exciting, and it just shows how quickly things are moving. And I was talking to someone about AI yesterday in an interview, and it just seems like the expectations once you apply AI. Things get moving a lot faster, and the expectation becomes that it's going to stay at that pace. So there's some challenges there
There are some challenges for sure.
From an equipment side to be able to stay up with and keep up with what that means.
And I think that's to that point. That's why we've created this independent AI team. It's not a subset of our R&D. It's a core competency, and we're going to continue to invest in that. That's going to be a future of our industry.
And that will touch all product.
For sure.
So it's not isolated in any particular.
Not just isolated to AOI. It's going to be all products. We see it as a game-changing technology.
Yeah. So just in wrapping up here, as a technology leader who's involved in so much, we're here at Apex. If I worked in EMS and I'm leaving your booth, having just done a tour, and Kevin gave a fantastic tour, by the way, what is the impression you want them to have, not necessarily of the equipment, but of the company, of Mycronic, as they leave? What is it that you want people to
think? What I want them to understand, I think, is really that we are here to make them successful. Really, that because everyone has opportunities and challenges, and this industry is moving very fast now. Some niches are moving fast, some are not moving at all, I would say. So there is a mix. You need to be at the right place at the right time with the right technology, and I think together we can make that successful. But I think what is more important now than ever before is teamwork. It's not only the classical supplier customer kind of thing. I think we need to do much more together, really, to understand where we want to go and how we're going together.
Right. Yeah, that collaboration.
Collaboration is the word, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and from my side, I mean, it's super important for us to attend a show like this because we're able to get voice of the customer. And to me, that's the most important point here. Understanding their pain points, understanding what their needs are, understanding what their gaps are, understanding what the challenges are. And that's how we can help them.
Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity to get voice of the customer directly. And allow us to continue to evolve our products. And that's what it's all about.
Excellent. Well, I wish you continued success. This is exciting to see it being rolled out here at Apex, and we'll stay in touch and hopefully get some updates during the year.
Of course. Thank you.
Gentlemen, Anders, it's a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you for
Likewise.
joining.
Thank you so much.
Kevin,
Good to see you again, as always.
always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Pleasure.